Hello everyone, Jeff here with you for episode number 38 of the Wednesday Night Wrestling Blitz here on YouTube. This is a GMTE Express add-on exclusive as we have AEW and NXT going head-to-head once again this week. So let's get into it. This was night 2 for both Fyter Fest 2020 for AEW and for WWE NXT. It was the Great American Bash night 2. We'll begin with AEW Fyter Fest. It took place from Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. This was taped back on July 2nd. They opened up with a tag team title match here where Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page defending the titles against Private Party. This was the substitute match for Jon Moxley and Brian Cage that was pushed to the following week here for Fight for the Fallen. So we going to have this match here. It's a very good match, I thought. Good stuff here. Private Party, they just go back and forth. Private Party at one point was close to glory at one point when Cassidy hit Hangman with a springboard DDT on the entrance stage. Mark Queen followed with a shooting star press in the ring. Omega had to leap through the ropes to break up that pinfall attempt. However, the champions were able to come back. They escaped Gin and Juice, and then Omega hit Cassidy with a big knee, and then Hangman countered Queen into a super power bomb. And then Hangman and Omega hit their last call finisher, which is the Buckshot Lariat and V-Trigger to win and retain here. And what I thought was a very good match. So it's a good makeup, a good make-do here for the cancellation of the Moxley Cage match here. The champions retained as they should have here. There was no reason for them to lose the title right now. And eventually I think they do lose the title down the line. We'll talk about that. Next match on the card was Lance Archer taking on Joey Janella here. Archer entered the ring here by carrying Sonny Kiss over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes here. This is kind of the gimmick he does here. Archer controlled most of the match here. Janella didn't make the comeback here. Jake Roberts, of course, was out there with Lance Archer, tried to distract the referee at one point at backford when Janella hit a flying senton, then Kiss hit a 450 splash. Lance Archer was able to kick out of that. Eventually, he did hit the blackout finisher to Joey Janella off the apron through a table on the outside, and then he smashed Janella's skull into broken wood and then rolled him back into the ring and got the win here. So Lance Archer winning again, not a big surprise. I figured he was winning here, but this was a good showing for Joey Janela. This was not a bad match. It was fine for what it was. But Lance Archer, he needed a win here to get himself back on track here. And Joey Janela, he looked pretty good in defeat here, but Lance Archer was the rightful winner here. So we got Darby Allin. We got a promo here from Darby Allin. We got a coffin drop from here. He visited Travis Pastrini's Compound of Fun here. He's talking about Brian Cage. Darby Allin is about him being the one to put him on the injury list. And then at one point, we actually see Mr. Allin hit this high-attitude coffin drop into a foam pit. So at least that was a little more safe than the stuff he did with Tony Hawk recently. So we had that. So we had Taz come out here to make his major announcement. Of course, he was out there with Brian Cage. No match with Moxley for the AEW World title here, or at least on this night. That'll be happening on Fight for the Fallen next week live in Jacksonville. So basically, Taz is hyping up that match here, and then he had this major announcement. That major announcement turns out to Taz bringing back the FTW World Championship title to Brian Cage here. So apparently this makes Cage the baddest son of a bitch in professional wrestling. He puts over Brian Cage here as he does, and then he's trying to hype up the match for next week with Moxley on Dynamite for Fight for the Fallen. So we had that. Now, for those of you who are astute wrestling fans, obviously you know the FTW title was in the original ECW. You may be thinking, how were they able to get the FTW title here on Dynamite, considering that WWE owns anything related to ECW? Well, the FTW title was actually commissioned and owned by Taz here. It was not an official ECW property, so that's why they were able to get away with this. So they have this title. I guess this is going to be a new title going forward here, so I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things here. I mean, I guess I see what they were trying to do, but we'll see how it goes. I'm kind of indifferent on it for the time being, so we'll see what we had there. Big Swole was informed of a big quote-unquote suspension when she arrived at the venue here for this show. AEW management put the kibosh on her for appearing on the show because she, quote, kidnapped and harassed Britt Baker. And then she also made a point of not being notified before she made the, quote, 3.5-hour drive. Now, of course, don't tell them, but we all know this was taped the following night in Jacksonville after night 1, so shh, don't tell anyone that we know that. Later on in the show, they went for some comedy here with Big Swole. She basically went back into the arena. She defied the punishment order here she crumbled up the paper here that said that she was not allowed to be there, and she threw it and actually hit Rebel, and who accidentally, after an oversell big time on it, she inadvertently backhanded Britt Baker back into her broken nose, and Britt Baker sold this like, I don't know what. I guess they were going for comedy here with the security, with Britt Baker selling. I thought this was a swing and a miss. I was not a big fan of this at all. I'm a big fan of Britt Baker's, but I didn't like any of this here in all honesty. Next up was the 8-man tag team action here with the Butcher, the Blade, MJF, and Wardlow. They're teaming up to take on the Young Bucks and FTR here. Great stuff here for these 8 guys in the ring here. Looking pretty good. Each guy got a chance to shine. This match pretty much went as you would have expected here. The story of the match was how well would the Young Bucks and FTR work together. Initially, FTR only tagged themselves in. The Bucks had to get blind tags to get into the match. Then eventually, the teams started working together. At one point, they hit combo moves, and they hit a double super kick. At one point, they hit the Goodnight Express, and then the Spike Power Driver. And then we had a double suplex spot by Matt Jackson and Dax Harwood, then a flying splash from Cash Wheeler, followed by the Swanton from Nick Jackson. So, pretty good stuff here. Towards the end of the match here, Matt inadvertently superkicked Harwood with Pentagon while he ducked it. Matt lost focus, and then Lucha Brothers took advantage of that situation and hit the teamwork power driver and actually beat Matt Jackson here clean. So the heels get the win here. Very surprised here. I figured the babyface were winning this one. A much needed win here for the Lucha Bros. And also, I guess one of the big spots in the match as well. I think it was Phoenix. He hit this big dive over the top rope into everyone on the floor. I mean, it's one of those cool visuals, but yet everyone is standing around waiting to take the fall so they can catch him. It's kind of cool, but also kind of dumb, if you get my drift here. But the heels actually get the win here, surprisingly. Matt Jackson actually took the fall here, which was very surprising. You don't see the Young Bucks lose very often. Afterwards, the Bucks and FTR kind of stared at each other, but eventually they shook hands, and nothing happened. They did not fight. Eventually, they're going to have a match, so it didn't happen here on this night. Nyla Rose was out for a match here next. She took on Kinsey Page and Kylie King in a handicap match. This went about 4 minutes. She pretty much dominates both of them. She won after powerbombing Page on the King for the double pin. Afterwards, Nyla Rose got a promo here, made a statement afterwards basically saying that she hired a manager. She didn't reveal who that manager was going to be. I guess we're going to find out. The rumor and belief, at least from what I think it is, I think it's going to be Vicky Guerrero, because we've been seeing a lot of Vicky Guerrero around. They haven't really used her in anything yet. I think Vicky Guerrero is going to be the one, but we'll see officially here soon. Rose looked around the locker room, she said, to notice the successful wrestlers that have a manager or a coach or an advisor or whatever. And then she finished it by promising that she'll leave as women's champion very soon. So, as far as the match, I thought the match was nothing more than filler. You didn't really need to have the match, in my opinion. To me, it came off as the obligatory, we need to get a women's match here on this show. Let's put Nyla Rose out there and have her squash a couple of jobbers in 4 minutes. Didn't really need to have the match. You could have just had her come out, cut the promo, maybe have some sort of a stare down with Nyla and maybe Shida or somebody like that. Could have done that. I think that would have been fine. I thought the match was just filler here. Didn't really need it on the show. 6-man tag team action was up next. We had, of course, Mr. Brody Lee, Stu Grayson, and Colt Cabana, the Dark Order here taking on SCU. The rest of the Dark Order watched from the stage. Brody Lee and Grayson would yell at Cabana whenever he winced in pain, which was kind of the story of the match here. They were trying to get rid of his, quote, nice guy mentality here. Eventually, we get to the end of the match here. Colt broke up a pinfall, Christopher Daniels and Stu Grayson. Daniels took exception to Colt siding with the Dark Order. That led to a huge, big clothesline lariat from Brody Lee on to Christopher Daniels. Colt was tagged in for the easy pin and actually got the win here, so Colt Cabana celebrating here with a big celebration here about winning again. Again, we'll see where this goes. The heels won here, not a big surprise here. I figured they were winning the match here. I mean, obviously they're trying to make the Dark Order a big deal. I thought the Dark Order, it's kind of come off a little flat here lately, but I think they got back on track here, and we'll see what happens. And again, I don't see Colt Cabana being with the Dark Order very long. I could see that being some kind of a swerve down the line. Your main event for the night here on night 2 of Fyter Fest was Chris Jericho taking on Orange Cassidy. And As far as this match goes, I know the hype was, at least from Jericho's side and others, saying that this was one of Jericho's best matches in his 30-year career. I will say this match with Orange Cassidy was better than I thought it would be. It was a good match. I didn't think it was a great match. I mean, this pretty much, you got what you thought you were going to get here. Obviously, you had Santana and Ortiz on the outside. They took advantage of Cassidy behind the referee's back quite a few times here. Cassidy had sent the best friends away for the match. He wanted to do it on his own here. Cassidy made the comeback for a while, got all of his stuff in. He eventually hit a flying splash, then he hit a big flying DDT. But then he got caught into a lion tamer, the walls of Jericho. He got out of it for an inside cradle. And then he hit the haymaker punch, and then eventually Ortiz splashed orange juice into OC's face. The best friends came back down to even up the odds to attack Santana and Ortiz. Aubrey Edwards lost control with all what's going on. Jericho used Floyd, which is the bat, of course, to hit Cassidy in the head. We had a code breaker follow by that, and then Cassidy still kicked out of that, and then we saw some more back and forth with close near falls from both guys. Cassidy went for the big Superman punch. Jericho timed it and nailed him with the big flying Judas effect elbow and got the win here, as he should have. So Jericho got the win. It was a good match. It was better than what I thought. It was a good match, not a great match. So that was it. And, Jericho celebrating as they went off the air. I thought the pacing in the match, I thought it was a little slower than I would have liked. Obviously, Jericho's older, but, he could still work in the ring. He's working with a younger guy in Cassidy. Cassidy, did everything he could here to bump around for Jericho. It was a good match. I didn't think it was a great match. So that was it for AEW Fyter Fest Night 2 2020 that took place from Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. Let's get on to NXT, the Night 2 of the Great American Bash. This took place from Full Sail University in Winter Park, Florida. It was taped back on July 1st. They opened with the street fight here. Candice LeRae taking on Mia Yim here. Mia Yim attacked Candice LeRae. She was coming out to her entrance, and then they went right into it here. Lots of back and forth action here. Several weapons got involved. Steel steps got involved. They worked each other over with the kendo sticks for a while, and then eventually we saw Candice LeRae set up a table in the corner, which we would find out which will come into play here shortly. They went in and out of the ring into the seating area at one point. They went through catering and they threw food and trays at each other. Titus O'Neil's not going to be happy about that, by the way. LeRae hit Yim in the face with a fire extinguisher at one point, did a superplex, which Candice LeRae took through a table. And then they just went back and forth here, more punishment here. And then eventually Mia Yim gets out the brass knucks, which we don't see a lot of anymore in wrestling, so it was cool to see that. She never really got to use them. Candice LeRae blocked the action, hit her with a chair, and then she took the knucks and ultimately used them and hit her in the face with it. And then they had worked their way up to the top rope in the corner where this table was bridged between the ropes here. And then there was this big pile of chairs in the middle of the ring, which they had set up. And sure enough, Candice LeRae hits this big swinging neck breaker onto the pile of chairs in the middle of the ring. Candice LeRae just drapes her arm over her, covers her, and gets the win here. A little bit of a surprise here. I'm very surprised that Candice LeRae actually won the match. I figured Mia Yim was winning it. Candice LeRae, I thought she could have taken the loss here, but you know what? This was a very good match. I thought the storytelling was great here. These two worked very well together here. And Candice LeRae got the win here. They both sold the match for a while in the ring as they were doing the picture-in-picture deal. Eventually, Johnny Gargano came out to get Candice LeRae and took her to the back while Mia Yim was able to get up on her own and leave under her own powers. So, Candice LeRae gets the win, and I thought it was a very good match. And a match that was added very late here. We had Tony Nese taking on Bronson Reed here. This was a good little match here. I thought these guys worked pretty well together. I thought they told a pretty good story for the time they were given, which wasn't long. Bronson Reed just uses his power on the Tony Nese for a while here. Eventually, Nese gets the advantage here. And eventually, he was able to trap him, take control for a while. And then ultimately, Bronson Reed got the upper hand once again. Tony Nese was trying to use dirty tactics to win the match. It didn't help him. Ultimately, Bronson Reed won in the end with a splash from the top rope to get the win. They're trying to tell the story of Leon Ruff here. Tony Nese, I guess, had wrestled Leon Ruff, and then Bronson Reed took exception to the way Tony Nese was treating him. So I guess they're trying to make something out of Leon Ruff here. I mean, we've seen him featured on NXT main roster television, so we'll see if they may be trying to get him to be a star. We'll see. But Bronson Reed won the match here, which I thought was actually a pretty good match. So it wasn't that bad. It was a good little match here. It served its purpose. We got this Robert Stone, Robbie E., whatever you want to call him, segment backstage, the poor man's version of Tony Khan. It was promised that he was going to get a new signee this week for his brand. We see him and Aliyah backstage trying to convince Shotzi Blackheart to sign with them. Of course, she wasn't having any of that. And right now, just Robert Stone obviously dumbfounded, upset by it. He had this coffee, kind of threw it back over his back shoulder. He inadvertently, of course, hit Killian Dane, who was nearby, and then he took out Robert Stone, laid him out here. And then eventually Shotzi Blackheart, because we saw her with the toy tank backstage, she actually drove it over his leg here. And then, of course, the screaming here was screaming from death here. It was just something else. Again, they tried to go for comedy. I mean, it was, it was one of those type of deals. You knew he wasn't going to get Shotzi Blackheart, so they just made him look like a complete idiot here once again. So, and once again, I believe it, and I've seen people say it as well, that Robert Stone, that's being portrayed here in NXT, is the poor man's version of Tony Khan of AEW. And I could definitely see these similarities there, so we had that. Next match on the card was Isaiah Swerve Scott taking on Johnny Gargano. Great match from these guys. They go back and forth early on with technical stuff. Johnny Gargano eventually took over here for a while, and then Scott was able to recover. And then they came back from a commercial. Johnny Gargano took back control. We went the next several minutes exchanging takedowns. They went to the finish here. Ultimately, in the end, he hit a poison rod, and Johnny Gargano did it ring send-in. Eventually, he got the win with a slingshot DDT. So, Gargano getting the win here. Not a surprise. You figured he was winning this one. But I thought, again, very good match here. Maybe there was something slightly missing here, but I thought these two told a very good story as well. I thought this was a great match. 6-man tag team action was up next here. Legado del Fantasma taking on Drake Maverick and Breezango here. Of course, that's Santana Escobar, Joaquin Wild, and Manuel Mendoza here for the Fantasma team here. Again, this was a pretty good match here. Breezango embraced the Lucha Libre spirit by wearing masks in their entrance, so that's what they were going for here this time because they're known for this type of stuff. Fandango really worked well here. He took most of the heat for the match here. He was the workhorse for the team here. They just went at it here for a while. Prince Pretty eventually got in. He was cornered by Mendoza, who got into the match. Fantasma kept him isolated, and eventually Tyler Breeze here took punishment for a while. And then eventually Escobar and Drake Maverick got the hot tags from each side, respectively. Drake Maverick runs wild for a while, but eventually gets his momentum cut off here. And ultimately, after all 6 guys brawled for a little bit, Escobar hit his finisher on Drake Maverick and got the win here. So the heels get the win here as expected here. But again, a good match. Probably the most underrated match on the entire card here. Not a whole lot of heat to it, but obviously the heels getting the win here was the right outcome. They beat Drake Maverick here, which was not a surprise, but I mean, again, an underrated match here, probably one that's not going to get a lot of attention, but I thought they actually worked pretty well together. We see Mercedes Martinez here. She makes her NXT debut here. She takes on Santana Garrett. This was a showcase from Mercedes Martinez. This match goes about 3-4 minutes here. Santana Garrett does get offense on Mercedes Martinez. At one point, she actually hit a back spring elbow on her in the corner, but Mercedes Martinez, for the most part, just no-sold her offense, and then ultimately took down Santana Garrett. She ultimately won in the end in about 3-4 minutes with the Fisherman Buster suplex and got the win here, as she should have, so, because they've been promoting her. You didn't think they were going to have her losing her first match here after all the promotion, so this was exactly what it needed to be. It proved the point here, and this is going to be, I think, the role for Mercedes Martinez, kind of like what Shayna Baszler had done for a while. So we'll see at some point, maybe down the line, Mercedes Martinez gets herself into the NXT Women's title picture. But, of course, that's still a ways away, I think. Your final match for the night in the main event here was the winner-take-all match here. Adam Cole putting his NXT title on the line against Keith Lee, who was putting the North American title on the line here. This was a great match, outstanding stuff. Both guys go back and forth with a series of basic holds and counters. They eventually work their way outside the ring. Adam Cole sends Keith Lee through the plexiglass divider and the barricade, and then Adam Cole takes over for a while. The Undisputed Era, the rest of them never came out here, which was kind of interesting. So 1-on-1 all the way through. Adam Cole keeps him grounded for a while, but Keith Lee eventually makes the comeback. He uses his strength to get the upper hand eventually. He takes Adam Cole apart. And then ultimately Keith Lee took him down with a power move, and then super kicks, and then at one point Adam Cole had hit the last shot, didn't win the match here. He eventually hit a Panama Sunrise, and then another last shot, didn't get the win, he kicked out. And then ultimately Keith Lee won with his big power bomb here. He won with the Big Bang Catastrophe and the big power bomb here, the Spirit Bomb, and he got the win, sure enough. Now, obviously, there was a photo on social media last week that leaked the outcome here. They tried to play it up on social media as well, saying maybe they taped multiple finishes here, which was clearly not the case here. I think, which was Indashir. It was a member of Indashir who really screwed up here and leaked that photo, which everyone saw. And sure enough, there was no swerve here. There was no funny business here. Keith Lee ultimately did win the match. And he is the double champion here. And the belief is that Adam Cole is probably heading up to the main roster here very soon. So, and then they showed Killer Cross, or I should say, Killer Cross and Scarlet Bordeaux. They were watching from this booth. So obviously that's the next program they're setting up for, is Cross and Keith Lee, obviously for the titles. So that was it. Very good match, I thought. Outstanding stuff here. So that was it. That was NXT Great American Bash Night 2 from the Full Sail University in Winter Park, Florida. Let's go over the numbers here for the shows this week. We got the ratings in. It showed that the Great American Bash Night 2 edition of NXT beat Fyter Fest Night 2 edition of AEW Dynamite in viewership, but Dynamite won in the 18-49 demo once again this week. NXT won it this week in viewership with 759,000 viewers. That's down 4.2% from last week's number of 792,000 viewers. AEW Fyter Fest for AEW Dynamite did 715,000 viewers, down 4.4% from last week's 748,000 viewers. So NXT won it by 6.2% this week, up 0.2% from last week. AEW won in the key demo here. They did a 0.28 rating, down 3.5% from last week, while NXT did a 0.20, down 9% from last week. So last week AEW did a 0.29, NXT did a 0.20. NXT this week came in 62nd in viewership, AEW was 65th, AEW was 7th in the key demo, while NXT was 24th. MTV's Challenge topped the night in the demo with a 0.53 rating with 937,000 viewers. Tucker Carlson tonight on Fox News Channel topped the night in viewership with 4.282 million viewers, coming in third in the demo with a 0.38 rating. Tough as Nails on CBS topped the night in viewership and in the demo. They did 4.196 million viewers and did a 0.6 rating in 18-49 demo. So with NXT winning the viewership battle this week, they have AEW now leads with 31 wins. NXT has 8 now. We have the one tie. AEW won all the demos this week except 50 plus, which NXT won. I'm sure the main event probably helped NXT get the win, because obviously the Keith Lee Adam Cole match was in the main event, and then Jericho and Cassidy was in the main event on Fyter Fest. My pick of the week this week, I didn't think this was quite as close as last week. Still relatively close, but my pick again is NXT. I just thought they had a little bit better here. It was pretty good stuff here. I thought the main event was much better than the main event on Fyter Fest. Other than that, I thought it was relatively close. I think AEW was trying a little bit too hard again here. I thought NXT was just pretty solid from start to finish here. Nothing really wrong on NXT. AEW I thought was pretty good, but just slightly off this week, I thought. So through 38 episodes now, I have NXT with 22 picks and AEW with 16 picks. Let me know down in the comments section below what your favorite moment from Wednesday's wrestling action was, and we'll see you the next time with the next Wednesday Night Wrestling Blitz on YouTube. Bye for now, everyone.